So I was curious about the human psychology involved with leaders. I asked myself, how are they charismatic? And how do they get people to do what they want them to? We've all met people that we like, but a lot of times we don't really know exactly why we like them. So I wanted to know why exactly our brains made us think that we like them when we don't even know the person, or we don't even know the reason why we like them. So we already know that hand gestures equal popularity and that eye contact produces oxytocin, but I wanted to know why exactly that was the case. What made people react well to those kind of behaviors? So I started to look into it a little bit, and there was actually a lot of things, a lot of different kinds of theories involved in this. That wasn't very surprising, but I did find a lot of themes that were very common in these behaviors that dictated whether you were friendly or not to other people. The biggest theme I saw for likability was trust, and two of the biggest factors were eye contact and touch for humans. Now we know that these things release oxytocin and generally just hormones that make you feel good, but I wasn't exactly sure why that happened. A study shows that people can communicate emotion very well through just hands touching, and babies seem to be much healthier when they go through touch therapy compared to those that don't. So it seems touch is made to reinforce social cooperation. It's the same thing for eye contact. Apparently, the less eye contact you make, the less sincere you seem to the person that you're talking to. But also, staring too long can be made to seem creepy to some people. A study shows that 3 seconds is the comfortable range to look at somebody. The second theme that I saw was the theme of similarity. Similarity in both behavior and appearance seemed to increase likability in a person. There's an effect called mirroring, where a person copies subconsciously the behaviors of another person, motor functions, but sometimes also verbal things. They repeat the same things, or they act the same way subconsciously. And it's described in the chameleon theory as a perception behavior link, in which people just subconsciously copy each other. It also seems that babies start mimicking mothers just a few hours after they are born. But it's not just behavior that we're talking about, it's also physical appearance. It appears that resemblance of the face also can enhance trust. There's a study that shows that genetic relatedness might be one of the factors that increase likability. In an experiment where they used face morphing, they compared different faces, and faces that looked more related were more likable. So the other thing that I saw was competence. In short, it seems that people like winners, which isn't very surprising, whether it's at sports, math, or economic success. Anything that shows competence is well viewed. One experiment showed that people judge you off your warmness and your competence. The interesting thing was that warmness comes before competence because trust should come before respect from an evolutionary standpoint, but you still need both to be liked, according to the study. The main point is that competence is implied when somebody is confident. If they act like they know something, then people assume that they do know it, and it makes them want to stick together, even if their skills aren't to par with their confidence level, which could end badly. But the point remains that people just want to be with winners, and who can blame them? Then again, there are some other behaviors that just seem to be inherently rewarding. Something like eating food that just makes you feel good. These kind of behaviors are some things like when people talk about themselves, it seems to activate the parts in their brain that are related to rewards and pleasure, even when they're no matter if they're talking to somebody else or just to themselves. So if you let people talk about themselves around you, they associate those feelings with you, even though they would still technically, according to the studies, get those feelings even if you weren't around. The studies don't seem very conclusive, but it seems that it could be that sharing personal information with somebody else increases bonding with them, and that could be one of the benefits to that. But I wanted to see if I could see some of this in the real world myself, see if I could apply some of these concepts to conversations that I had with people in the real world. So I went and talked to 6 people. There were 3 groups of 2 people, and there were 3 reaction groups that were supposed to happen. One reaction group was an expected positive reaction, was a negative reaction, and one a half and half reaction. For the positive reaction, the first person did reciprocate the same kind of positive energy, but the second person thought it was kind of awkward, and they were still very reserved. The negative reaction was as expected, and the half and half was also a negative reaction, even though there was a lot of hand gestures. There was no eye contact, and that might have been the reason for that. So the conversation was pretty much as expected. The only hard part was just trying to force the conversation in a certain way, trying to act with certain behaviors. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But I think the important thing is just to focus on trust over competence and just recognize the patterns and just try to make it a habit so as not to be forced. And I think that would be the key.